Okay, be prepared for spoilers. Lots and lots and lots and lots of spoilers. I love spoilers. I will not tell you who did it, and I will not reveal the murderer, but I will reveal all the character progressions. So I want to say I've been practicing. See, happy 4th of July, July. Happy 4th of July, July. Yay! I know I'm a little late, but still, I got it. I got my shirt. And welcome to the D. Louise book series. It's nice to meet you. I'm Christina, Kristina. This is where we read books and talk about books. No special effects going on here. No lighting, no special editing. It's just me. It's just little old me talking books to nobody. Because apparently nobody watches my videos. Please watch my videos. One day, maybe I'll earn enough to get a computer. As you know, if you've been here for a while, my computer separated and it's being held together by a binder clip. Yes, ma'am. What can I do for you, ma'am? So, don't forget Friday recaps of Star Trek Next Generation. Also, If Then, the one I did the other day, no one has watched. I'm like, oh, what did I do wrong? YouTube and its algorithms doesn't show it to anybody. And also Flashback Mondays, where I talk about over 30 to 40 different books: mystery, historical romance, contemporary romance, paranormal, harlequins, suspense, inspirationals, and harlequins. No one else does all that stuff that I know of. Anyways, and my daily book reviews. And welcome to one of my daily book reviews. We are doing Alex Cross. We are doing James Patterson's Alex Cross mystery series. And we are doing J.R. Ward's Black Dagger Brotherhoods. And we are doing Victoria Thompson Gaslight series. And this is book 16, Murder in Murray Hill. And if you excuse me, I bought the entire set of books. They were former libraries, but now they are all mine to enjoy, to binge read with you. And I hope you have watched all 16 previous videos of mine. Also, go check out all of Janet's I did last year, and JD Rob's I did last year, and Laurel's I did last year. And hope you are keeping up with the Black Dagger Brotherhood. And I hope a couple weeks ago we did the Stephen Lawhead, the Skin Map series. So that was pretty interesting. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So this is book 16. And in the last book, Frank proposed to Sarah. Whoopee! Yahooey! Whoopee! Yahooey! So, Frank gets a letter. He gets a letter from Henry Livingstone. We're not really told how Mr. Livingston got Frank's name. Maybe he saw it in the paper. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember. But his daughter has been missing for 24 hours, and he wants Frank to find her. She's 28, but she's lived a sheltered life, and his daughter is missing, and he's very, very worried about her. So Frank investigates, and he enlists the help of both Sarah and Maeve. And as I said previously, and I probably should start with it if you haven't watched the previous videos, but you need to go back and start with the first book in this series and watch all the videos with me. But Sarah Brandt is a midwife, and Frank Malloy was a detective with the New York Police Department. But apparently, because of the last book, you are not leaving me alone today. Or they come here. Now, well, you gotta take the affection or stop nudging me. If you want affection and you're nudging me for affection, then you gotta let me give affection. So, in the last book, and I should have noted this page is down. Frank, because of the situation with Catherine was resolved in the last book, he has been appointed guardian of Catherine. Catherine is, Sarah had adopted her. She had been left at the rescue place, the mission, and she had been abandoned there about 2 years ago now. And no one knew who her parents were or anything like that. And she didn't speak for a very, very long time. Then Sarah took her home, and she also brought Maeve home to care for Catherine while Sarah was out delivering babies, because Sarah is a midwife. We do not see her parents in this, but her parents are Elizabeth and Felix Decker, and they are part of the Knickerbockers, and they are very, very rich. But due to separation way back when, that has been slowly dissolving and evolving into a family affair again. They have pretty much, let the past go, and they've developed new relationships, and Sarah's been having a relationship with her parents. But that's really not mentioned in here too much. And we also have the neighbor, Mrs. Ellsworth, and her son, Nelson. We've seen Nelson a couple of times, and there was even one book dedicated to Nelson. So Mrs. Ellsworth is the neighbor, and I will, at the end of this, I plan on doing a couple of videos of just Mrs. Ellsworth's saying. So this could almost be an early, like a human trafficking type situation. This gentleman, puts ad in the newspaper requiring he's looking for a wife. These women who are, getting up there in age, I'm not that old, but in their 20s, who are kind of homely looking and don't really have too many prospects, respond to his letters, and then he takes them to his house to supposedly introduce them to his mother, and then he gets them in the house, and he subdues them and beats them and locks them in cages and withholds food and does the old brain, manipulation, washing situation, and he uses them until they no longer can be used, and then he either kills them or gets rid of them in another manner. So Frank discovers all this rather quickly, and it takes a few chapters, but Frank has they develop a plan with Sarah and Maeve to write a letter that Maeve will tell them what to say, because Maeve has a family history and she knows how these things work. Whereas Sarah and Frank are a little naive on this particular street life type situation, and Maeve has had some street life experience. So she writes the letter, and then Sarah rewrites it in really fancy handwriting, and then they put Mrs. Ellsworth's address. And soon enough, they say, she says she's an heiress, she's coming to money, blah, 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 but she's looking for a fiance because she doesn't want to go off to a relative's house. So he writes her back, and then they set up a little sting, but Grace, the missing daughter that Mr. Livingston hired, at the last minute interferes because he's so desperate, he screws up the entire operation. But they do end up finding Grace, but not before murder has occurred. And the gentleman that is doing all this has been murdered. And they find girls in cages in his house. And the horrific story, these poor girls went through horror in his house. So they take care of all that. And there's a couple of really good there's really good moments in this book. After all this, after they start investigating the murders, and Frank and Sarah are trying to help the girls that were the victims of this crime. And there's a couple other murders that occur as the story progresses. But they have not told Mrs. Malloy, Frank's mom, about the situation. And the reason I've been doing the sign language and learning to do it for school is also because Brian, the character in this book, he's deaf. He's deaf. And so he's learning sign language with his grandmother. That would be, this is mother, and then 2 is grandmother. And so they haven't told her yet that Frank and Sarah are getting married. In the beginning, Mrs. Malloy was not happy that Frank was seeing Sarah because she was afraid that if Frank got involved with Sarah, that Frank would take Brian and move in with Sarah and leave her alone. So that was the biggest, huge part of Mrs. Malloy's anger against Sarah, and Sarah knew that. So they go to talk to his mother, and Frank says, I should have told you sooner, but I didn't want you to worry until we had everything settled. Her troubled glance started to Sarah and back to him. So it's settled now, is it? Ma, you remember when Mrs. Brandt's daughter Catherine, when her father tried to claim her? Of course I remember. Do you think I'm touched in the head? He was making a botch of this already, but they agreed he would tell her this part, so he soldiers on. Catherine's father was a very wealthy man, and he wanted to make sure she was well taken care of after he died. She glanced at Sarah, this time with disdain. So he left the girl well fixed, did he? Not exactly. He didn't want anyone to take advantage of her, so he left the money to someone else, and somebody he named as her guardian. She stiffened. Better still, but now I guess you're rich, Mrs. Brandt, and you can take care of a family of your own. Sarah gave her a sweet smile, acting as if she didn't notice the sarcasm behind the words. He didn't leave the money to me, Miss Malloy. I don't think he trusted a mere female to handle it. He left it to me, Ma. She blinked several times before she said, to you? Yes, he named me Catherine's guardian, and he left me enough money to take care of her. He had a lot of respect for Mrs. Malloy, Sarah added. He thought he could trust Malloy to do what was best for his daughter. Mrs. Malloy nodded slowly, her expression bleak, her jaw clenching as if bracing for a blow. I guess that's what's best for her is for you two to get married, isn't it? This was Sarah's part, so Frank sat back with a sigh and gratefully let her do it. Mr. Malloy has done me the honor of asking me to be his wife, and I have accepted. We're looking forward to making a home for Catherine and Brian. His mother closed her eyes for a moment as a shudder ran through her, but Sarah continued before she could reply. We're very concerned about Brian because you've taken care of him since he was born. His life will change when we get married, but we don't want to upset him any more than necessary. So we are hoping that you will come live with us too. Frank didn't know what he expected, but he didn't expect his mother to sit there like a stone, staring at Sarah as if she'd suddenly sprouted horns. After a very long, awkward silence, she said, Live with you? Her voice was so faint he could hardly make out the words. Sarah, of course, pretended not to notice anything untoward. How on earth did she manage it? Well, not at my house, of course. Neither of us has a big enough place for a new family. There's 3 of you and 3 of us, and we want you to have your own room so you could have your privacy when needed. And Maeve, that's Catherine's nursemaid, will need her own room too. And the children could share a room now, but they'll each need their own rooms eventually. So we're going to need a much, much bigger house. And don't think we want you to do anything but look after Brian, Sarah went on. Mr. Malloy will be able to afford to hire help. Help? Servants, Ma. She means servants. Servants, you can't afford servants, Francis. I can now, Ma. I told you Catherine's father left me some money. Where is this house you want to live in? We haven't found one yet. We haven't even started looking. I would appreciate your opinion. Though since you'll be living there too, I'd like you to see it before we decide for sure. You have to leave here, Ma, Frank said, wondering if Sarah realized that his mother was really asking. The neighborhood in New York were like islands divided by streets instead of water. People might live in one neighborhood their entire lives and never even meet people living 2 blocks away. A person could disappear completely and start a brand new life simply by moving to a new neighborhood. Leaving the place she lived since she'd come to America would literally mean giving up everything and everyone familiar. You could always come back to visit your friends, though. Francis, exactly how much money did this man leave you? I don't know exactly. They're still figuring it out. A guess then. You must have an idea if you're planning to buy a house with it. And then he tells her 5 million, and she faints over backwards. So, there is one little other part that I want to share, but they do the investigation into the girls and to the situation and to the fact that they were all held in cages, and they tracked down some of the other women too because there was correspondence. They found the correspondence. What are you doing? They found the correspondence. And they checked on some of the other women. Some of the other women made it home. Some of them didn't. Come here. Come here. So they were trying to figure that stuff out. But Mrs. Ellsworth, what are you doing? This is my books. Mrs. Ellsworth does have a little thing. Frank and Sarah have been so tied up with the case that they haven't had time to get a ring. They haven't had time to look for a house. They haven't anything yet. And Mrs. Ellsworth's son, Nelson, is also pursuing a romance. And we will see them. We saw Nelson a couple of books ago. We got to meet him up close and personal. But we will get to know Nelson a little better in further books. So Mrs. Ellsworth comes over. Good morning to you all, she said, breezing in with a napkin wrap plate. Nelson asked me to bring you the leftover shortbread cookies so he won't be tempted to eat them himself. He's gotten very conscious of his appearance since he started keeping company with that special young lady. We don't know her name yet. She's just that special young lady. Your son might get married before Mr. Malloy and Mrs. Brandt if they're not careful, Maeve said. It's possible, Mrs. Ellsworth said, not realizing Maeve was teasing. We were eating hazelnuts the other evening when Miss Pringle was visiting, and Nelson cracked one that had 2 kernels in it. He gave one to Miss Pringle and ate the other one himself. That's just being gentlemanly, Maeve said. Mrs. Ellsworth smiled. It also means he's going to marry her, although I'm sure neither one of them had the slightest idea it did. Mrs. Pringle would have dissolved in giggles, and Nelson would have nearly died of embarrassment. So you didn't tell them, Maeve said. Of course not. I'm waiting until they announce their engagement. So, Mrs. Brandt, you and Mr. Malloy had better not wait too long if you want to be married soon. And they need to find a house, and they haven't told her directly. There's no direct communications, but Maeve and Mrs. Ellsworth get together, and Mrs. Ellsworth finds them a house. And we end with that information at the end. And I like the author's notes. Now, some of them get better, some of them get longer as the books go on. This is just a brief one, When researching the Gaslight mysteries, I've often encountered instances where the issues people were concerned about at the turn of the last century were the same issues we are concerned about today. Spirituality, finding Mr. Right, alternative medicine, the migrant's role in society. One issue I've been thinking about a lot lately was the potential dangers of social media and the way predators use it to deceive unsuspecting innocents. And they do. So I hope you will hit the like and subscribe to letting me know I'm doing a good job. And please, if I'm not, please don't say nothing. If you can't say something nice, please don't say something. The negatives really kill the analytics and they really hurt the feelings. So I'm just trying to be out there and I'm just trying to share books with you. I enjoy books like crazy. Well, come here. Oh, well, come here, come here, come here. Well, fine, run away. What can I do? So I want to practice this again. Although it's over, I have to save it for next year. But oh, you know what else? How about Happy Born Day? I'm pretty sure that's yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the born day. So happy birthday to the United States and its uh, independence. So I hope you have a good day. Please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. I really appreciate it. And I hope you will join me as we continue on our series and our J Award series and our Alex Cross series and anything else I can pick up and find. I'm on a book hunt. I gave away a whole bunch of books during COVID, and now I'm trying to buy them all back, and it's going to cost a fortune because when I bought them, they were quite cheap, and now they are quite expensive, and I probably will never see half of them again anyway. There was a couple of series that I really regret giving up. So please hit the like and subscribe. Thank you.